Riddle me this, pod fans. What's 90 minutes long, arrives every Friday, and all about the Caped Crusader? Why, it's Blabbin' About Batman, the animated series, the newest Patreon-exclusive podcast miniseries on the Talking Simpsons network.
That's right. For the rest of 2022, we'll be covering 8 of our favorite episodes of Batman, the animated series, with the same heavy-duty research, clips, and trivia you've come to expect from us. And if you sign up at the $5 level today at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons, you'll get to hear each episode as soon as it goes live.
Remember, sign up at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons to hear all 8 episodes of Blabbin' About Batman, the animated series, as well as the 100+ other exclusive podcast episodes we produced so far. So become a patron and join us through the rest of 2022 for another great miniseries. Same Bat Day, same Bat podcast feed.
I heartily endorse this event or product.
Ahoy hoy everybody, and welcome to Talking Simpsons, the podcast where fingers fing. I'm your host, the brain moron Bob Mackey, and this is our chronological exploration of The Simpsons. Who is here with me today as always?
It's Henry Gilbert, and the best tonic is chronic.
And who do we have on the line, our special guest for today?
Who do you take me for, Lorenzo de Medici? It's me, Mike Hanford.
Hey. And this week's episode is Weekend at Burnsie's.
Same old garbage.
This guy's always on. Oh, you too.
This week's podcast originally aired on April 7th, 2002. And as always, Henry will tell us what happened on this mythical day in real world history.
Oh my God!
Happy 13 days until 420, Bob.
Oh.
Van Wilder debuts to little success at the box office, though it does better than the Mr. Show movie that also debuted Run, Ronnie, Run in theaters at the same time. And meanwhile, in Japan, a favorite of mine, the anime Azumanga Daioh debuts.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and also the film Shark Tale is announced years ahead of time. Though in this original version is called Shark Slayer, and James Gandolfini, I believe, is supposed to be the Jack Black role in the original version of it.
How can they make us wait so long? That's cruel.
But yeah, that Van Wilder, that was definitely an HBO favorite at the time. I mean, or no, it was like one of those unrated DVDs that your friend would have.
Oh,
Yeah, with the blank edition, one of those releases.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, there was, I remember one of the editions was like Raj's edition, wasn't it?
Oh,
or did he have his own movie?
well,
Yeah, I mean...
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Raj had his own sequel.
I
Yes,
thought
yeah.
I thought this was a success because it was they had the Van Wilder 2, The Rise of... Is it Raj or Taj? Is it Raj?
Oh, Rise of Taj,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this movie gave us Ryan Reynolds? Is that what's going on here?
Well, I mean, he was already around, but
in Vancouver.
It gave him maybe a starring vehicle.
Yeah.
I love the on Sloppy Boys, not to already begin complimenting our guests, but on the Sloppy Boys
No, let's maybe make that a theme throughout the whole episode.
on the Sloppy Boys podcast, especially behind the paywall, I like hearing the Ryan Reynolds opinions on those. Those are
Yeah, there's some of us who had. My opinion is I'm fine with him, and he's the lead of one of my only favorite Marvel franchise, the Deadpool guy. I don't know much about the Marvel world, but yeah, there's some people on the podcast who really take a hard line on that guy.
and weren't we all waiting for the Run, Ronnie, Run movie?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it goes without saying, Mike Hanford, a friend of Bob Odenkirk.
Yes, yeah.
And I know he had a not good time with that whole experience.
Right.
Yeah.
What was the? I mean, he didn't talk to me about it, but what was the deal there? They kind of took the editing away from him. Or?
Yeah, I know this well because I just listened into the audio version of his memoir, Bob Odenkirk's memoir, which is really good, and the Birthday Boys get a lot of nice compliments in there. And
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Does he read it?
Yes, he reads it. Yeah,
audiobook?
yeah. But yeah, they've gone into it in other places too. But pretty much the sense I got from it was that they worked a ton with the director of the movie, Troy Miller, on the TV show. But then when they made the movie, Troy Miller, I believe, had final cut, and there were disagreements with Bob and David over what the final cut would be, and eventually he seemingly overruled them and put out the movie as he wanted it, which Bob and David do, and I think most of the other people who wrote on it, like Scott Aukerman, are not fans of, and don't have nice things to say about it.
You would think that Bob and David, being what they are now, could get that out of someone's hands and re-edit it.
Yeah, at this
that
point,
would take a lot of work, and who knows if they have time for that. But that would be a fun thing to see.
Yeah, with all the power they got, though, man, I guess it was a New Line release, which would mean Warner owns it now. I don't know.
Okay.
I honestly
That is so funny thinking if you've got a movie happening, you do need to write on a contract and a piece of paper that this one guy is going to make all the last edits.
Yeah.
It's so funny to think about that.
And it's crazy to think that was in their agreement of and it's Troy Miller, not Bob and David or something, who were the showrunners of their show.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie came out as I was getting into Mr. Show, buying the first DVDs, but I don't even know if it went to theaters. I don't even know, if it was a direct-to-DVD thing eventually. I'm not
feel
sure.
like it was a festival type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I think it debuted at Cannes.
I remember in the run-up to it, anytime in between the last season and the release of the movie, when Bob and David would be on Conan or something, Bob and or David, I would just be like, "What's going on with this movie? Tell me about the movie." And they would mainly just joke about it as
I remember really liking it, but now knowing that it could have been something different, I think I was more just oh my god, a Mr. Show movie, I'm on board, whatever they want to do.
I just remember the funny parts from it, and I haven't watched the whole thing again since the first time I watched it, but I do remember Jack Black's very funny song I will not repeat on this podcast because it's far too profane. But anyway, yes, that's what happened when this episode released in April of 2002. Yeah.
But yes, joining us today is Mike Hanford of the Sloppy Boys. He was last with us for Dead Putting Society. Welcome back to the show, Mike.
Hello. Yes, that was a season 2 episode, or season 1, season 2.
Season 2,
yes.
A lot slower paced and less risque than this one.
Oh my gosh. This is season 13?
13,
Hold on.
yeah.
I've got it up here. 13, wow.
You got Disney Plus at the ready. Yeah.
Disney Plus at the ready. I like to have it going while we're talking, so I said, this part. I got to tell you about this part.
And Mike, how is it going in the world of musician / cocktail podcaster?
That world is always burgeoning. It's fantastic. You can't swing a dead cat without hitting a cocktail podcaster or a comedy musician these days. No, I think it's a pretty select group. It's pretty small, but it's going well. It's a lot of fun.
You guys, I've been loving what you guys have been doing. I was just listening to your best Christmas aspect episode.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's behind the paywall. Ooh, so you're
I'm a patron,
a true slot
I am. Yeah.
Yes, that was Jeff Dutton's idea. We wanted to talk about Christmas stuff as we're in December, and he just texted us, "How about this best Christmas aspect?" And we both, the two of us, Tim and I, laughed at it, and we said, "Okay, great, let's do that." And there's a lot of talk on the episode saying the special feeling you get, that's my favorite aspect. Just these obscure words and thoughts.
But of course, Mike is here, A, because he's very funny, and we respect that. But B, he is a big fish fan, and I don't know the name for fish fans. Fish heads? What's the...
Fish heads, sure. You can have fish heads, you can have wooks. Those are a different characteristic of a fish fan. Actually, I'm going to look up what an actual wook is. I think it's a big hairy type fish fan, but... what do I know?
Oh, I see. It's like the bears of the fish community, I guess, then.
Maybe. Here we go. Define wook. Geez, I'm reading a huge... To me, wook is the hairy dude with no shirt, usually jean overalls, who usually hailed from Kentucky or somewhere down south. This is from, fish.net.
Oh, I see. Man, well...
It's one of those things you know one when you see one, but... yeah, I think fish head is the... term, I guess.
Well, and Mike, as I understand it, you grew up a fish fan. Was it your brother that got you into it?
Yes, my brother got me into it. I was in 6th grade when I started listening to him. So I've been to a bunch of shows. I know people who like him. I know people who do not like him.
Mm-hmm. A running series of events on the Sloppy Boys podcast is you trying to convince your co-host to come to the New Year's show at.
I think Tim is going to be there.
Oh boy!
But Jeff, for the first time ever in his life, is spending Christmas in L.A. His family's coming out there, so he's not coming in. But we still like to act as if he will be there right next to us.
So how many times have you, just to that Madison Square Garden New Year's show, how many times have you been then?
Just to that one? I've been once to the New Year's show, but they always do 4 4 shows either leading up to New Year's or 3 on the front end and then 1 on the first. I've been to 1 actual New Year's show and then 3 total of that run. And it's very fun. I'm going to go again this year.
And Mike, I have to assume you're going to it stone cold sober, right? Yeah.
As in this episode.
That's the only way to listen to that band.
Yeah.
Fish does not recommend drug use or endorse it in any way.
Unless it's medical.
Right,
You
right,
have
right.
to have the prescription with you.
I have a bottle of water. I have a small Arrowhead water with me. That's all I need. I sit down in my seat, and even before the encore, I leave before the encore.
I'm glad Mike is
Beat
here.
the foot traffic.
I have no fish experience. I have no fish prejudice either. And I think it's because
That's good.
between the ages of 14 and 16, I think that's when all of your musical tastes cement because your brain is the most reactive to music. I think there's some science to back that up.
I think you're right.
Jam bands did not find me in that time. So
where are you coming from?
I was like really into new wave stuff and Weezer and like the non-grungy alternative bands of that era. So they're pretty divorced from Fish.
I more meant where. That's good to know, but I more meant where are you? What part of the country?
Oh, Northeast Ohio.
Okay, yeah, I don't. I wouldn't see that as a big like Fish. I think the East Coast was at that era was like everyone knew the band.
But Northeast Ohio was Juggalo country, so I could have taken a different route entirely.
And there's a lot of somebody wrote.
Nathan
there's
Raymond,
like
we've had him on our podcast.
Yes. He wrote an article like how both the Juggalos and the Fish fans are sort of similar.
He lives in both worlds, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, see, that was the thing where I grew up too in northern Florida. I knew some people who liked Fish, but especially the drug users who enjoyed music in my world, they more were into Juggalos than like the biggest pot user I knew was like he would tell me all the time like, now look, the great Malenko means this in Juggalo reference.
Henry, you were invited to the Dark Carnival?
I was a few times, but well, that's the thing with this episode. I think I've been high on marijuana less than a dozen times. And every time I don't get it, I need a better mix. I just get too nervous every single time. So
I know people who've tried it like 4 times and they're just like, my heart rate goes way up. This chemical in the thing makes me like it just does not settle well with me.
I guess too, Mike, when it comes to comedy about pot, and you're also a professional comedy writer and performer too. Well, I mean, what do you think of people who ask comedy writers like you that good comedy is dependent on smoking pot, or like, oh, you must have been high when you wrote this kind of?
No, I know that's to if you were working on a TV show and getting high and writing, you would be wasting everyone's time. And you just be like, no, we can't do any of this. You need to not be high at work.
This is unprofessional. Go home.
I'll do the thing where I'll partake and write some notes down that I think are so funny, and that it's just like I'm cracking the code of even how a TV show or movie should be written. And the next day you read it, and it's usually on my notes app on my phone. It's full of misspellings and autocorrects all over the place, so the sentences don't even make sense, and they're not funny. They're only funny to someone who's high as well.
Well, if we're talking about weed experience, I was a like amateur pothead until about 5 years ago. In that it was every day, but it was when my work was done. So I was being professional too when it came to podcasting and writing about video games. But I just got kind of tired of it, and now I do have a bad reaction to it now. Maybe it's too strong now. But whenever if I smoke weed, I feel like, okay, what if I forget how to breathe? And I'm thinking about that for the next 45 minutes. How do I swallow? Things like that. Like natural processes, I start thinking about that and I start freaking out a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah, so,
interesting.
And then like I'll try to have it socially, but then it's like, well, I just feel really awkward now and I don't know, well, did I say something stupid then? So I feel like maybe I've had enough. Maybe I've just had enough.
Yeah, the being social is a difficult thing, I think, for a lot of people. It's like, you all of a sudden, especially if you're with people who aren't also smoking weed, because then if everyone's high and everyone knows they're high, it's like, oh, we're all going to be silly and make make mistakes. When you're with people who aren't high, it's like, oh my God. I've noticed if I smoke weed here in New York where it's legal, and I'm walking out into the real world, I get that thing. It's such a stonery thing to do, but it's like, man, I think everybody's high here. And New York is just filled with so many different types of people, like very straight-laced people, very out of this world type people, and you just look at all of them, you're like, they're probably all high, man. Look at that guy in the suit. He probably does the most of all.
That's the very Homer reaction in this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, the opposite reaction is something that I had when I started dabbling, when friends that were way more experienced, we'd get really high and be like, let's go to the store, and I would think, people are going to know.
They'll all know.
Yeah.
They'll know.
And I see high people, like, every time I turn my head, there's somebody that just reeks of weed, and I don't care.
We live in Berkeley, California. Yes, it's literally...
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the first thing I did when I moved to Berkeley 12 years ago is get my medical marijuana card. Now, of course, it's go to the weed store. You don't need a card.
I walk by it every day. Yeah. Watching this now, I was like, oh, yeah. I had friends whose whole personality was the guy who did pot growing up, who had the hookup. And now it's like there are still states in the U.S. where it is not legal at all, but it's so legal in most of the U.S. That it doesn't feel special. And I wonder what's happening to those guys who are defined by pot use, what they do when it's...
I think they probably bumped up to coke and...
So it is a gateway drug, is what you're saying.
Here's something in New York. It's in the city here. I mean, in all of New York State, it's legal, but they don't have shops set up the way they do in L.A. or... There's more cities in California than just LA.
San Francisco,
in California,
no others.
There's just two, yeah.
Right. And I read this article recently that was like, so you can go to like a vape shop, let's say here, and you'll see on the front, it'd be like THC sold here. And I went inside and I was like, you sell actual like marijuana here? And they're like, yeah. I was like, not just like CBD. They're like, no. We can sell the plant, it's like the flower or the pre-rolled or anything like that. And I read this article about it. It was like the cops and legislation, like it's not figured out yet. So these guys are just, these people who run the vape stores, like, yeah, we're just going to start selling it. And
see what happens.
No one, like the mayor doesn't want to crack down on it and make it like a bad thing, like the way it was in like the 80s or 90s or whatever. So they're kind of just letting it go, but maybe eventually they're going to take care of, like, crack down on it. I don't know.
There's a lot of weird stuff up in the air with marijuana, because in California, we have delivery, of course, and I'm sure it's in a lot of other places, but the few times I've had it happen, it's like, you need to use a debit card. You can't use a credit card, because I think the idea was, oh, people are going to buy weed with credit? That's crazy. So you have to use a debit card, and then they have to give you back change. So it's like, I'm actually making a different transaction, and weed just happens to pass hands.
Yes, right.
I feel like there's some weird, like, phantom transaction happening there.
The way I've heard it here is, because there are still delivery people, you're paying for their gas money. You're not paying for the weed they're selling, the gas money. The sort of residual thing of all this is now people are selling mushrooms like crazy. And those are still illegal, I believe. But it's like, hey, as long as the door's opening a little bit for this weed, let's just start selling mushrooms too, I guess.
We should start talking about the show soon, but I go to Vancouver a lot, and I think magic mushrooms, in quotes, were just legalized to a certain extent, and you see posters for them everywhere.
Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah.
Wow.
Henry, I don't think you would like them.
No,
if you can't handle weed, you would jump.
Already makes me. Yeah.
You would jump off this balcony.
if pot already. The last time I did an edible, I was like, man, I feel pretty good for about 30 minutes, and then the rest of the time I was like, I need to just lay in bed and close my eyes and tell myself I'm not dying. I just need to. Well, so the behind the scenes on this episode is interesting, and I even did some original research, guys.
Ooh.
As they talk about it on the commentary, it's written by John Vitti, who is a Simpsons legend, a season 1 writer, and a super nice guy. We've interviewed him.
Writer of Mr.
Nice.
Plow, among many other episodes.
But the episode is actually pitched by George Meyer, another season 1 legend. He thought it'd be funny if Homer got addicted to medical marijuana, because pot is non-habit forming, as they say. So that would be the joke. But and George Meyer, a longtime comedy pal of Bob Odenkirk as well. He's like, if you pause at the right time in a season 2 episode of Mr. Show, you can see him in the audience.
You can spot all kinds of fun people like Alyssa Milano.
In season 1, it's incredibly distracting. Like Margaret Cho is like right behind John Ennis, and I'm just like, well, okay, is she here for a line, or no, she's just in the audience. Okay. But also that George Meyer is a big fan of Fish and the Grateful Dead. And yeah, Mike, I was wondering, have you met other famous or comedy pros at Fish concerts? Not you went there with them, but you're at a Fish concert and you're like, hey, it's you.
The only person I've really ever seen, I used to go with Harris Whittles to shows, and the only person that I've ever seen there, I'm trying to think. Oh, I went to a Grateful Dead concert, their 50th anniversary thing at Soldier Field, and we saw Bill Walton was there. He's
that's cool.
The basketball player. He's a big, well-known Deadhead. But I saw the younger Pete from the Pete and Pete show at a Fish concert once. And this is probably when I was in high school. And I was like, hey, it's Pete from Pete and Pete. And because I was yelling down to him because he was on the floor. And he looked up at me just like, don't say that. I'm not doing that right now.
Leave me alone.
Actually, that reminds me. We hold no degree of fame, Henry and I, but every once in a while we do get recognized just because we've been doing this for a long time. And even before I was really podcasting for a while, I was coming out of a dispensary and a fan saw me, and they talked to me and they were like, "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone."
No, I'm not gonna narc.
Yeah.
Don't tell Henry.
I told him I'd stop.
Yeah, and it's a fun commentary too, though, because Al Jean, who was a showrunner on the episode, he talks about how when they pitched it, the Fox censors hated it because they thought that the entire point of it was to get the visual representation of Homer smoking pot on the show. That the anarchists writers of the show are like, we're finally going to show kids Homer smoking pot and we'll destroy America, and so that's why Homer cannot actually, his lips get close to it. You do not see Homer's lips touch the end of a joint and inhale. Yes.
And this is happening at the same time in which That 70s Show is a big hit for Fox, and every episode includes a scene where all the kids are high, but they can't actually show the kids doing the activity.
Right. It's just like they're in the garage and there's kind of a mist around, right? And they're all being silly.
Yeah. And I respect the writing on that show, but boy, those scenes must have been easy, right?
Oh, yeah.
What would high people say? Or maybe it's as hard as writing for Ralph Wiggum or something. Maybe it's actually a lot harder than you think.
Well, and now we're about to see more of it with That 90s Show coming to Netflix.
Certain people are not going to be there.
Some people not invited back, but hey, Kerwood Smith is there, and that's
Hyde's died in a second Vietnam.
Wait, I didn't know about this. Is it the same, the original cast coming back and now they have kids or something?
Some of them, yeah. The parents are back and they're moving back into the house.
I think it's mainly about Kitty and Red, the parents of the show.
Yeah, and there's it's mainly, and it's set in the 90s, so it's called That 90s Show.
Right.
Yeah, but
all right.
But yeah, so
Cool.
Not only that, they also are funny on the commentary because no writer wants to say they know what smoking pot is because it was recorded in 2010. So they're all like, well, I think we're a pretty sober bunch of writers and I don't know about smoking pot. I mean, neither.
David Silverman, director, is there, one of the artists, and he says no comments.
Yeah, he's David Silverman, famous for being at every Burning Man and having an art installation there, I'm sure he's pretty sober.
You know who's a deadhead? Donna Carey, the Canyonero episode writer.
Yeah,
among many good ones. But I know him as a deadhead, and he did that. There was that LSD Netflix documentary he sort of spearheaded.
Oh, cool! I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's a great dude.
And they were also.
Hey, and look, hey, whoa, wait a minute. Before we continue, I'm not saying anything about his. I don't know if he smokes weed. He likes the Grateful Dead. That's all I know.
That's it. Yeah.
I can't come on this and talk for other people's habits.
There's also a funny bit that they thought that this would be the controversial episode, but it's the one that airs right before this is the Brazil episode they thought would be non-controversial. That's the one that pissed off everybody, the Brazilian government, while nobody was mad about Homer smoking pot.
What was their problem about? I don't really remember that episode.
The Brazilian Tourism Board especially, and many people in Brazil felt it defamed Brazil and made it look bad. So
yeah, but Henry, I want to hear about your original research because this episode won the Stony Award.
Hey.
Yes, the High Times magazine gives out the Stonies for best pot things in like best TV series, best movie, best book, all that stuff.
Best pot things.
And
Was Jason Mewes the presenter?
I don't know who the presenter was, but so yes, I hear on the commentary they mentioned that Carolyn Omine accepted the award for it. And she's not on the commentary, but we are friendly with executive producer on The Simpsons, Carolyn Omine. So I sent her a message and said, "Hey, do you remember this? Did you accept the Stony?" And she says yes, she did. That she said it was in 2003. A big appeal of it was that they would pay you to fly to Manhattan and pay for all your travel and everything to come and accept it. And she says that the award is, quote, a glass bong mounted on a marble stand.
Oh.
And she is, I believe she was seen as the biggest expert on weed culture at the time. And so that's why she was the one who jumped at it, though. She also joked that said, word of advice, if High Times Magazine is making your travel arrangements, expect a certain amount of spacing out in it. So,
That's great.
yeah.
That's great.
She apparently helped a bit with a lot of the naturalistic stonerisms in this episode. Apparently she's not credited writer on it, but obviously we all know that everybody writes a script, and especially with The Simpsons.
And Mike Reese said they had a lot of fun sharing their stories about pot use.
Yeah.
He said it's the most fun episode they ever wrote together.
Reese in his book says he learned to smoke pot out of an apple bong in college, but that's his only reference to doing. There's no mention of using of pot in the Simpsons writers' room in the book. Unfortunately, no one will cop to it.
But there was, I did hear a stat that the most bags of Cheetos were eaten during the writing of this episode. So draw your own correlation on that.
They were a snack-friendly writer's room
Oh, they
at the
were.
time.
Yeah.
Sorry, one last preliminary thing. The episode is called Weekend at Burnsie's. Now, I would always confuse this with the episode The Mansion Family because they actually spend a weekend at Burnsies in that episode. But obviously, the title is indicating the third act Weekend at Bernie's parody, and there's a Simpsons connection to Weekend at Bernie's. Weekend at Bernie's is a Fox movie, and one reason Fox was confident in putting The Simpsons on the air was they put a Simpsons short before Weekend at Bernie's just to test it out, and people loved it. They liked it more than the movie. And that gave them the confidence to put it on the air. And that was summer of 89. Of course, Simpsons is fall of 89. Cool. So because of Weekend at Bernie's, we have 34 years of The Simpsons.
That's amazing.
That's cool.
This title does always confuse me when I look at it on lists because it's the Homer Pot episode, and instead of having a pot pun or anything, it's only about the last like 2 minutes of the episode is what it's named after.
I completely forgot about the Burns part of this when I rewatched it for this podcast, and I was like, Burnsies, is that like a burning, like a burner, like a burning weed type of thing? I was like, oh no, Burns, of course, one of the main characters.
They should have called it medical marijuana.
Ooh,
that's my pitch.
And just to give people who don't follow weed laws in America too closely, just to show you where they were at the time when this was written in 2001 to air in early 2002, medical weed was legal in California and 6 other states, mainly across the West Coast. It was slowly unfurling, and of course, the depressing facts about pot restrictions in America is mainly it became illegal to abuse poor and non-white people and also politically left people, like it's and slowly undoing it. And I will say the thing that taught me most politically about pot laws as a kid was the System of a Down song, Prison Song. Which is the line, they're gonna build a prison for you and me to live. They actually take just a moment in the song to just like basically read you stats about mandatory minimum sentencing and how that's it's used on pot laws and everything. So that song radicalized me. But yeah, it's like now today pot is legal in 39 states and recreational use is legal in Washington D.C. and 19 states. So quite a difference from when this episode aired. And also to show how much things have changed since then, in 2020, they did another pot episode where Marge just gets a job at a legal dispensary and is really enjoying it. So, yeah, she works for...
Good.
Though, of course, obviously there are more than 40,000 people still in jail for weed-related crimes that obviously should be expunged. But that's the depressing, sad facts of pot things. But...
Well, there were a bunch of... Biden did do some got some people out of jail, right?
It was very
Has that taken effect at
It was
all?
very specifically federal weed charges, and so
Okay.
it's like I don't know who that applies to. Maybe if you're busted in Washington D.C. or something.
It definitely applies to DC. I remember in that, some people do have been arrested for crimes with it, charged with like possession in like a public park or something. That's under federal jurisdiction, which is obviously just a small move forward, but a good thing. Not bad. Good. But yeah, hopefully it's a sign that Joe Biden, who I think even 2 years ago was still pretty strongly against pot legalization, but I think he is lightening on that just a little bit, at the very least for political reasons, because it's something when this episode has the joke of, if there was a vote to legalize pot, the potheads would forget about it. Like, that has been proven not to be true. People show up and vote to legalize pot when it's on the ballot. Like, it's...
Yeah.
The Simpsons will be right back.
Welcome to the kingdom.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
No.
Simpsons Talking Watches now only at Burger King. Just $2.39 each with the purchase of any value meal.
Cool your jets, man.
Burger.
Collect all 4. And our big double cheeseburger is just 99 cents with 2 slices of melted cheese and 2 juicy flame-broiled patties. It's more than a quarter pound of beef. Hurry, offers end soon.
Welcome to the break, everybody. It's Henry here, and we hope you're enjoying either some extra fancy potato chips or some Texas THC. And a big thank you to our guest this week, Mike Hanford of the Sloppy Boys, the band and the podcast. Check out their podcast. They're supported on Patreon. Check out when they're coming to your town. Sloppy Boys are a real fun time. Thank you so much again, Mike. Also, if you enjoy this podcast, you should know that Talking Simpsons is only possible because of the support of listeners like you who go to patreon.com/Talking Simpsons and sign up today. That's because those folks let us do this as our full-time jobs. Me and Bob are able to cover every episode of The Simpsons super duper in depth. And also, for that $5 a month, you get a ton of extras like monthly episodes of Talking Futurama and Talk King of the Hill, of us going super in depth into season 4 of Futurama right now. We're about to start season 3 of King of the Hill. Also, from now until the end of 2022, you get a weekly exclusive episode of Blabbing About Batman the Animated Series Season 2, where me and Bob are talking about a different episode of Batman the Animated Series, some of our favorites. Please check it all out for yourself at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. But if you want something real nice to appreciate during your bathiola, sign up today at the premium level at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. You get all the $5 things I just mentioned, and then you get our exclusive premium podcast, What a Cartoon Movie. Me and Bob going super in depth into an animated feature film, just like we do an episode of The Simpsons. That means talking for sometimes 5 hours or more about an animated feature film once a month. Last month, we covered the Leica stop motion classic Paranorman. This month, we are covering the holiday Japanese film Tokyo Godfathers, a true classic as well. And we have so many in the back catalog. Everything from Akira to Goofy Movie, Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe, to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And if you want to hear, say, the longest podcast we've ever done, listen to the over 6.5 hours of chat about Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's all at your fingertips for just $10 a month, and you get all the $5 things. I would say it is approaching 300 hours of exclusive podcasts, so please check it all out for yourself at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. But first off, though, the episode begins with a bit about genetically modified foods, which honestly I don't know anything really about. When I googled it, I feel like Google is trying to get me to fall down a wormhole to learn about how like soy genetically modified soy is destroying testosterone in men or something. I feel like it's trying to radicalize.
Oh, is that what Soy Boy comes from? Is that what that?
I believe that's where those reactionaries make it up from, yes.
I feel like you have to go out of your way not to find non-genetically modified food. And actually, on the commentary, Mike Reese says they often make fun of things without even hating them or disagreeing with them. So he took a poll, like, who in this room actually cares about this? And nobody did. This used to be a much longer set piece until they kind of had a little vote. Like, why do we hate this?
Yeah.
Well, Mike, you're all Hanford Gets Healthy right now with your keto and everything. So.
Trying to. Yeah. The keto, you fall off the keto diet all the time. The keto, for those who don't listen to my podcast, I was just trying to eat healthier, but I told everyone I was doing keto just because I wanted to say keto. I'm on the keto diet, but it's not really keto. How could it be?
But yeah, I don't think about genetically modified foods, and 20 years ago there was some concern of like, if kids grow up eating this, it'll be it'll destroy things, and I guess judge for yourself if the world is worse from 20 years ago. I don't know, but
here's what I'll say about this first scene. It sets off this weird sort of pattern with Homer in this episode, and maybe this was happening more in this season, but he's really mean to Marge. Don't you think? She's like, oh, how do you like your food? Or something. He's like, same old garbage, the thing you played. And it's like, and he does other things where he's like, don't you tell anyone. He's like shaking his fist at her. I don't know where that came from, if it's specific to this episode or this season, but I noticed it throughout the whole episode.
I think they're bouncing back from a very mean Homer era, and they're kind of winding that down, but they're still trapped in the pattern. It's like, what's the worst or meanest thing you could say right now? Wouldn't it be funny if he said that? And that's kind of how every scene plays out. But that gets a little tamped down over time. Al Jean just took over the show again at this point.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I was curious if you guys knew of like a pattern happening.
This is when they're trying to get him to be less mean, but so if you were to watch a season 12 episode, we can point you to several where like I think there's I can think of just two right off the top of my head of Homer knocking Marge unconscious. Not through like he like gives
through
her
a rag.
Yeah, he puts a rag to her face and makes her unconscious, or gives her a nerve pinch and makes her unconscious. And in both cases, so she'll stop nagging, which I think we've heard from Dana Gould that Jim Brooks did not like that joke.
No. Season 13 is a rebuilding season.
Yes, yeah.
Things calm down a little bit next year on the show.
But even for like an episode about Homer being high and being like very stereotypical like stoner guy to still be like a little mean was
he's still, I mean, the shaking fist that's pretty typical.
He's been doing that for years.
I guess they acknowledge it much later, not to jump ahead, where Lisa says, I want my old dad back, the one who yelled at me and screamed at my mother, and what do I even want anymore?
Homer's reaction to the baby corn being that big is very over the top, like, whoa, that's pretty good. Though then when Marge decides she doesn't want, after watching the carrot eat a potato eat a carrot, Marge decides she doesn't want GM foods anymore, and she's going to make her own foods, which this also feels like we've identified many stories that seem like a writer on the staff who's kind of grumbling about their wife's new hobby or something. And this is kind of what it feels like too. But no one says that on the commentary. But but yes, Marge grabs Dirty Ho brand seed corn and other things to do a backyard garden.
All right, family. Who can guess what's different about dinner tonight?
Same old garbage.
This guy's always on. Oh, you too. We're eating genetically modified vegetables. Look how big they are.
This corn doesn't look so big.
That's baby corn.
What?
American corporations should stop playing God with nature.
There's nothing to be afraid of. They're all grown by the vegetable division of Union Carbide.
Mom, my potato is eating a carrot.
That's it. From now on, I'm growing all our vegetables myself.
And so then come in the crows, which I also was a surprise thing that came up in my questions to Carolyn Omine, because I just wanted to know about the Stoney Award, and I was like, oh yeah, what was that like? But she also mentioned that all the crow stuff in this, that she put a lot into that because she loves crows, and she is the person who fed the crows at the writer's office.
Yeah, they talk about how there were lots of crows around the writer's room, and when a joke wouldn't get a laugh at a table read, they would count a crow caw as a laugh.
She said that she would be the one to feed them, and she says, like, there are a few that knew me and would swoop over my head when I walked out of the building, or they'd walk back and forth on a railing outside the window of the writer's room. It was their way of asking for a snack. So
a few who knew me.
Crows are.
Mate, is that where the when they show the exterior of the power plant, there's always that crow caw?
Yeah, I wonder if that
crow caw. That sounds weird.
I wonder if that influenced the crow stuff. And Mike, your co-sketch writer in the Birthday Boys, Mike Mitchell, he was in and out of that writer's room all the time. Did he ever get attacked by any crows? You ever hear crow stories?
No, he never got attacked by crows. He would attack the crows.
Now, Henry, why would a cute little crow attack Mike Mitchell? Yeah, I think you're putting too much on crows, because crows are adorable. They're very intelligent, and they will be your friends. They can recognize faces, so never hurt a crow, because they will remember you for life. They'll pass it on through their family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah,
really?
yeah, and if you feed them enough, they'll bring you gifts.
Wow.
Yeah.
And no, Omine is she's with you in crow love, Bob.
Did the crow attack someone? Honestly.
Well, this episode made me think they did.
You've been watching that awful Alfred Hitchcock movies again, haven't you?
This is a huge leap from the, like, I always loved how the Simpsons start in one place and then by the end of Act 1 you're in a completely different place. This was a huge leap from like GM food, crows, Homer getting his eyes stitched, and like now we're into the weed portion.
All of this to get to it. Yeah, this is usually it's like, oh, we're gonna go to a book fair or whatever, and that's the whole Act 1. This one is like really 3 2-minute Act 1s in a row. But yes, Marge is surrounded by crows. She's tried heckling them and jeckling them, which is a reference to the Terry Toons cartoon crows, Heckle and Jekyll. And then Marge decides she's going to build a scarecrow. It really hit me. This has so much music in this episode. Like, they paid for at least the song rights, not the full, master rights, but If I Only Had a Brain.
Is that a Fox movie?
No, that's MGM.
MGM, yeah.
Well, it was MGM, and then Turner bought that, and Warner bought that, so it's Warner.
They had to pay for it, though.
Yeah. Mike, I asked this, too, is you're working on television shows. Are you guys jealous of how huge seemingly the Simpsons music budget was then? Because they have like 4 different songs in this episode.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it seems like at this point, season 13, the Simpsons could put any song they want. I'm surprised. Has there ever been a Beatles song in a...
Yes, there was. Actually, in a similar scene to Homer's Stony Drive, when he, in Lisa's Pony, is very tired and driving, they paid a whole lot of money for the Beatles song Golden Slumbers, and they were pissed that it wasn't even the real version of it. Like, they had to do a cover.
Oh, really?
He just got the song rights to it. Yeah.
We did... In the Birthday Boys show, there's a scene where Mitch and I are playing pool and billiards, and we just like it's like one of those kind of what's that Paul Newman movie?
Oh yeah, The Color of Money.
Color Money. It's like a take on that where we're like 2 big shot pool players just like playing pool by ourselves, and we just can't get the 8-ball in. And we had Werewolves of London playing, because I think that's the song that's in Color Money, and we couldn't get one of the producers at IFC knew someone at the Zevon estate, so they wouldn't give us the song, but they allowed us to re-record the song, so Mike Mitchell is singing the song.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a good voice, which a lot of people don't know.
No, I've heard him guest on. I guess I heard a guy who sounds like him on a Mumford & Sons song once on a Sloppy Boys episode. Because of course that song was sung by the Mumford & Sons, not you and Mike Mitchell doing voices.
Of course.
But this then leads to a pop-up video reference, which I feel like is also lost to time if you weren't alive then.
Yeah.
I loved pop-up video. As a nerd who loves
too.
Trivia, I watched even for many music videos I didn't give a crap about. I was like, I want to know, like, oh, what was it like on the set of I Kissed a Girl or whatever? That's the first one that comes to mind.
And the show is almost done. It's done in August of 2002, so they're getting their shots in at the last minute.
I like the pop-up video joke because they had 2 real things, and then the joke about it was the same jack-o'-lantern from different House of Horrors. Wait,
Treehouse.
Yeah, Treehouse story. Yeah. And then the last one was Grandpa's hat. Who shot Grandpa's hat? Which is obviously a fake one. So that was I like the sort of deterioration of the joke there.
And that it's presented by comic book guy's smug face, which is the perfect presenter of trivia. Yeah, it's Pop-Up Video. They did a reboot of it, like I think in 2010, though it was short-lived on VH1. But yeah, the Pop-Up Video. I mean, there's the Pop-Up Video, but then there were so many like imitators. I think too. It's like it's not the exact pop and the exact logo, but you can do it. And now I think it's one of those things. It's like it's just killed by the internet. You can just go to the IMDb trivia page to learn every Pop-Up Video fact you could know about something.
I think that Amazon X-ray feature is just Pop-Up Video, right?
Yes, yeah, and it's annoying. I don't like it.
Amazon, is that the one where if you pause it, you can see like who's in the scene?
Yeah.
And like trivia too, like IMDb trivia about certain things. I don't know how they get the data and how they distribute it, but yeah.
That could ruin like if you think a character is gone out of the movie and then you pause it and you see that actor is going to be in this scene, you're like, oh, he'll be back.
Yeah. That not to talk about Mitch all the time on this, but when Amazon Prime, I just think about I made my avatar the Mike Mitchell from his movie Avatar on Prime Video, and so I see
the Tomorrow War.
It's Tomorrow War character. Every Cowan.
That's cool that they go that deep. Not that he was like nothing in that movie. He had a significant part, but that's cool that that he's one of them.
That movie needed more of the Mitch Man. That's what I think.
Yeah. He was removed too quickly.
Not to spoil the film, but
no spoilers. And maybe he died, maybe he just left. Who knows?
But yeah, so Marge successfully constructs a scarecrow. It scares everybody off. The first Ned and his children try to pray to the cross of the scarecrow. That's a good joke that she thinks that you think that she's going to be shooing off crows, but she's shooing off Christians.
Yes. I've just, as I'm watching here on mute, one of my favorite jokes from the episode is when Homer comes back and he sees the scarecrow and runs away, and he's like, I'll regroup at Red Lobster.
Yes. He needs to.
That's such a funny regroup is such a funny thing for a dumb guy to say.
And that's where he gets the confidence to kill a man, which is what as far as he knows, he beats him to death
brutally.
But I also like a comment on Hacky Comedy of Marge saying, Marge is in the house, or I will be soon because it needs some cleaning. I'm just excited. But yeah, so Homer comes back from Red Lobster after being scared off, beats it to death. He says, "You ain't pretty no more," a reference to Raging Bull, which is it's what they say after Mr. Raging Bull himself, LaMotta, horribly beats up a guy, and they say he ain't pretty no more. So there's a reference. But once Homer kills it, the crows fall in love with him, and Marge's garden is completely forgotten, like many plot points in this episode.
See, this is well-observed crow behavior. Yes. They like their hero. They bring him things. Usually crows will just bring you like bottle caps and like pull tabs and stuff. It's not they're not going to the store and making transactions for you.
Not getting you pornography.
No.
Yeah. But yes, in our first clip here, Homer explains how he got some crows.
So Lisa says by killing their enemy, I became the Alpha Crow.
I gotta admit, I'm kind of nervous here. We haven't seen Barney since they enveloped him.
I'm sure he'll turn up. Look, here's one of his buttons.
Right, that's it. Get him out of here. This ain't no crowbar. This is a crowbar. See? They got the little stools and everything.
There's Russell Crowe, Cameron Crowe, Crow Diddley, Hume Cronin, Gregory Peck.
Homer, I'm very uncomfortable having a gang of crows in our bedroom.
It's a murder, honey. A group of crows is called a murder.
I'm sleeping on the couch.
And Homer is sober when he's friends with all these crows. This is before he gets high. This is unrelated to that.
The crows just sound like Yardley Smith.
Yes, yeah.
Going,
I think I hear some Nancy Cartwright crows in there too. But yeah.
Who was the what was the crow? He was naming the crows, and like obviously Russell Crowe and Sheryl Crow. Who was the one? It was like a name I didn't recognize. Now I can't.
Is it
think
Hume
of it.
Cronin?
Yeah, who's Hume Cronin?
He was in Cocoon. He was one of the old guys in Cocoon, but he acted for like 40 years before that.
Gotcha.
80s
okay.
kids know
so
him as an aged man, but
Yeah. Hume Cronin.
I wonder if they thought they were going to kill off Barney with that. They were like, we're sick of sober Barney. Let's just have the crows eat him, and we'll not bring him back.
That is such a funny, like, he sees his button and there's blood on it.
And Homer thinks that means that he's safe and fine.
You know the part there when Homer's like, a murder. A group of crows is called a murder. That's like a tone, a sort of cadence that Homer takes on a lot. Mm-hmm. And it's like very specific to him. And in my daily life, I've known people who watch Simpsons and also talk like that. Do you think that was like a way of talking that like was a reference to anything, or the Simpsons invented that and people just now have this like cadence?
I think it's just whatever Dan Castellaneta decided to do, because he was doing that voice back in as early as like the earlier seasons, because I remember him saying, "Elephant, honey, Stampy's an elephant." Gently correcting, but in a very patronizing way,
and being wrong
in a patronizing way, and he's correct. But I mean sometimes he's not correct. Yeah. But it just is for a TV show to like come up with, or Dan Castellaneta to come up with like a new style of talking.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, it seemed very. It was pretty powerful.
That kind of like sarcastic, comforting, I guess you'd call it, or just. But then Homer, it works great too, because Homer's so stupid he doesn't know. He's like in this case he thinks like, well, no, this is reassuring you. They're called a murder, honey. Come on, like let's lay in bed with all these crows. There's some fun animation of Homer being fed by the crows as one crow jams in a chunk of the donut into his mouth. But that's when the crows go even farther of picking up Maggie and flying her, which she is not scared by. She's totally fine with it.
She's into it.
Maggie is unflappable. No pun intended. But also, this is where there's a secret deleted scene on the DVD where when Maggie's being flown around, Abe and Jasper are watching her, and they say like, "Oh, look at Maggie, she's flying already. Feels like just yesterday she hatched." So that's a cute line.
It's okay.
Yeah, and so Maggie's dropped. Her diaper becomes a parachute and saves her. And then this is when Homer has to break up with the crows. They don't like it in our next clip.
Oh, thank God you're okay. Okay, that was not cool. We need to lay down some ground rules. We'll get to that. Right now, I think we need some time apart. All right, that's it. Shoo, you stupid crows. Shoo, shoo, shoo. That is not a worm.
So look, that is not a worm.
That's not a worm is kind of uncharacteristic for The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Homer's penis is viciously attacked here and then 3 minutes later in the episode.
Yes, it's so soon after. It's like, I get that is not a worm. It's like that definitely feels like a last second joke you come up with, because you're like, we can't just go out on Homer screaming. We need a joke here. And you can see how that's, kind of a sweaty pitch at the end of the day, and you go like, well, I'm assuming a lot on it, but it definitely sounds like late ADR that they put in it. But yeah, it definitely feels like if they're gonna have a joke very soon about Homer's crotch being bitten, you don't also need a joke of the crows also biting his penis. That's
right.
Just be choosier. Pick one. But yes, we come back into Act 2. All of this to set up Homer having an injury that needs to be prescribed marijuana. Like, that's all. There's no reason it was crows otherwise.
Right. We finally got there.
Though this also was a real standard thing then, because in season 12, there's Jaws Wired Shut. Jaws Wired Shut is this season. And last season, there's Children of a Lesser Clod. In both episodes, Homer has a fun adventure in Act 1. And then at the start of Act 2, he is in the hospital and given a prescription that will cause the rest of the episode's plot
and change his personality drastically.
Yes, yeah. So in this case, while he's getting stitches in his eyes, he gets a special prescription.
Well, there is a medication, although it's a little controversial.
Does it go in the butt?
I'm talking about medicinal marijuana, prescription pot, Texas THC.
Look, man, I don't do drugs.
Homer, for your eyes, the best tonic is chronic. You're not afraid, are you?
I had a bad experience with drugs. It was that golden weekend between summer school and regular school.
Hey, Homer, want to smoke some marijuana?
They say it's a gateway drug.
Well, if it isn't the Doobie Brothers. Uh-oh, crotch the weed, man. Smell any drugs, Sergeant Scraps?
For me, the 60s ended that day in 1978.
But Homer, you can't let a single bad experience scare you away from drugs.
But isn't marijuana or dope illegal?
Only for those who enjoy it. Medical use of marijuana is legal in this state. We'll also provide you with a prescription bong. You want the wizard or the skull?
I'd go with wizard. That would be my pick. The wizard's fine. I'm more.
Yeah, wizard's more fun.
If it's wizard versus skull, I'm picking.
It's less practical.
the wizard.
Yeah,
yeah. I
It's
guess
not like a
so.
nice round skull.
Yeah, that's true. I guess the.
Guys, I gotta tell you something that just happened was we were listening to that clip that sort of fits in with the drug doing, marijuana smoking, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon matching up with Wizard of Oz. As we were listening to that, I fast forwarded enough and skipped ahead enough to get right. It came in perfectly on sync.
Wow.
It was the best. Right from when Homer was getting smashed side to side by the dog. From then on, his lips were lined up perfect.
That's a game we invite all of our guests to play.
Yeah, sync it up.
It's exciting. It's exciting.
Now, this is medical marijuana, and I remember, of course, I said it earlier, but when I moved to California, one of the first things I did was get my medical marijuana card, and you needed an excuse or a reason to get your marijuana. And I took it way too seriously because I didn't talk to anyone who actually did it. And I was like, oh, they're going to ask me all these questions, and what do I have? Do I have headaches? Do I have back pain? Nausea? I'm thinking of all these ideas, and wait a minute, I'm anxious. Anxiety, that's one of them. And really, it's just like back then, they just want to make sure it won't kill you. And the guy was very chill and very nice, and he could tell I was taking it too seriously. He's like, listen, we just want to make sure you don't die when you smoke weed. So
I see. That's all it was.
He's like, would you chill out, man? This is.
I think you need to get high.
Yeah, try this, man. Then we can talk about your marijuana. Sorry, that clip had a super funny joke. That was the 60 died for me that day in 1978.
Yes. Yeah,
that's great.
That Homer was still acting that way in 78. I also really love Homer. Very briefly, he becomes a character in like an after-school special of like, but isn't marijuana or dope illegal? Just his big air quotes.
They say it's a gateway drug.
Okay. That's the attraction for Carl, that it's a gateway drug. Yeah. So Homer takes his weed, and this is where, man, strawberry alarm clock, incense, peppermints, that's such a corny drop, and it's like they must have spent like $30,000 to have that obvious drop in there.
A lot of times when marijuana is depicted in media, especially around this era, it's often conflated with like psychedelic drugs, which is very strange because they have such different effects. But I think it's hard to depict the effects of marijuana. It's like, how do you depict Ren and Stimpy being funnier and food tasting better or whatever, or like you just feeling elated? It's more fun to have your like magical experience where you're on the the things floating through the sky, the rainbows pouring out of the wounds in your face, things like that.
That's a really funny specific, like, why would the rainbows, like, who thought of like, let's have him shave and instead of blood, rainbows will come out. I mean, I get the rainbow thing connected with weed, but who thought of like that's where it comes from? Is so funny.
It is a great. I think it was VD's pitch, but yeah. So Homer gets high, and this is when Dan Castellaneta gets to sing along with Deep Purple.
Yeah.
They burned down the Cabinet House. It died within a month's town. I am hungry for a candy bar. I think I'll eat a mound.
He's having fun there.
I think they just let him go.
Yeah. Well, the first half of what he sings is the real lyrics to the song, which burned down the gambling house. It died with an awful sound. But the next lines are, Funky Claude was running in and out. He was pulling kids down. He was pulling kids out the ground now. Man, what was this guy on when he wrote these lyrics?
I didn't know this is the biography of Funky Claude.
And I love Marge's line, like, what's that billowing down the stairs? About smoke?
Yeah.
Though Smells like the art teacher's office is an okay line, but it's pretty much the same as the better line, smells like Otto's jacket from Homer Palooza.
Yeah.
Homer should have had the paper towel roll with the fabric softener sheets in it.
Mm-hmm.
That barely covers up the smell of weed.
Clearly, Homer, what Homer needed was edibles, but I guess this is before they could prescribe edibles to you, and it had to be a joint. But yeah, so this is when Marge is very judgy. You know, in that season 32 episode, she sells all this pot, but she doesn't get high until challenged on it. Of like, oh, you work at a dispensary, but you never even smoked it. But I love it. I love that she instantly is going to narc on him, like unless I turn on you.
Yeah.
Homer has decided this is going to be his whole new life now, and this is when we get a third song in like 90 seconds. There's just so many songs, but I will say Donovan's "Wear Your Love Like Heaven" is a deeper cut, and it's just a nice song. I like that song. Al Jean, maybe we think about the music so much because Al Jean constantly on the commentary is saying how much something cost or didn't cost, that he says Donovan's music is very clearable.
He likes a good montage. That's not a slam, but he enjoys montages.
Yeah. But yes, Homer rubbing his friend the razor on his face and just rainbows pouring out of it. That's a funny image with this peppy little Donovan song behind it is very nice.
Yeah. Well, that's sort of what I'm saying. Like, shaving has never come into my mind as something associated with weed, and that's what makes it so funny to me. Is like the razor's happy and he cuts himself and nice rainbows fly out of his face.
And Homer's just like,
and I love the way his car takes off too. It just like shoots upward.
Yes, flies up and then towards work, but
towards work,
which he's happy to see because the clouds coming out of it, I guess, are donuts. And yeah, the colors are lovely. It's just such a fun sequence.
Yeah.
And this is when Homer is also calls Marge from work, and this was my first time getting high. I had this happiness into instant anxiety thing that Homer has, like when he says, and if you tell anybody, I'll the first time I got high, I went home and called a friend who lived in another state, and I was on the phone with them for an hour, and I think they were just entertained by me being this high, and I was telling them funny stories,
Sure.
But then this was like 3 a.m. and I was still living at home with my parents. I was like 20, and I would hear a sound outside. And I was like, that's my dad. He's outside the door. He knows I'm high right now. I know it. I know he's right there. So that's, again, it's never, it gets me too anxious. It does the opposite.
Yeah, it's tough.
So then we see that Homer, now that he's high, he loves jazz now as well. It's just it's great. Though, you talk about Homer being mean, even when he loves jazz, he will force Lisa to play music longer than she wants to the point that she is like almost suffering. But at least he's paying her for it. At least he's doing that.
Yeah, $20 bills at a time.
And Homer's eating the extra fancy potato chips that Mr. Burns was eating in the episode Burns' Air, which that's just me being a live pop-up video thing right there. But that's
interesting.
You have to edit in the sound.
Yeah. Pop-up video. But yeah, the Homer is keeping his kids up late at night. This also is when Flanders visits him, and I do really love his just the way he says, like, "Oh my God, this guy does the best Flanders." Like,
I love that Flanders he's like, oh man, this is a big book. Could you read it to me? And it's like, this is all Flanders has ever wanted.
He's in tears.
That's such a fun. I don't know. I'm sure they put thought into this, but I like how it's degenerate thing like doing weed. How old am I? Smoking weed is like dovetails perfectly into religion. It's like, if you can get high, you can listen to this religion stuff.
You're very.
I love the way they're talking about it there.
He's so susceptible to finally hearing the Bible from Ned, and it seems to read it all the way to the end.
And Flanders' version of the Bible ends with the end.
Yes.
I went to Catholic school. The Bible does not end with the end.
I love how Homer just says "wow" twice, like "wow."
Yeah.
It sounds like the same voice clip or whatever.
Yeah, they just cycle it. Yeah. And so this is when Homer is tricked into signing to be the last signature to put on the ballot recriminalizing pot, which, there was a little cycle of it going in and out of criminalization, but I feel like now it's just, if it got, I guess, who can ever predict the future with politics, but I feel like if it's been legal long enough and we've all seen it didn't do anything, like I feel like the pot is not going to get recriminalized, I don't think. But
and the finger thing means the taxes.
Oh yes, yeah, the taxes.
They get a lot of money from it.
They sure do, yeah.
And we can't tax anyone else, so tax the weed.
Then Homer asks him to do a Chief Wiggum, which I wish they say it on the commentary. I kind of wish they kept it. Originally, they say they had Harry Shearer just do a Wiggum voice, and they played that, but then they decided nah, it should just be, let's just have Hank Azaria's regular Wiggum come out of his mouth. He does. The character of Ned, though, does a very good Chief Wiggum, though Homer doesn't think so.
Yeah.
So then out of nowhere, this turns into a Burns episode, but they have so much fun with Burns here.
And so, potential investors, I hope you don't think our IPO is an IPU. Then I hold my nose thusly. What do you think, Smithers?
Bit of a downer, sir.
Well, I hope the investors like it. I have to raise $60 million or we're out of business.
Why is that, sir?
I told you, I pissed it away. Oh, don't make that face. Yes, that's the one. Smithers, I need someone who laughs at all my jokes. You know, honest feedback.
Oops! I thought this was the can, man.
Well, you're a happy Homer. What's your name, young man?
You just said it!
Well, if you like that, listen to this. Working hard or hardly working? Smithers, you could learn a thing or two from this braying moron. Young man, I'm making you my executive vice president.
Sir, I believe that position was informally promised to me.
Oh, Smithers, I would have said anything to get your stem cells. Now, welcome aboard.
You're covered with a very fine fuzz.
Very fine fuzz.
I love everything Burns says. They're like, I pissed it away. And then he's like, don't make that face. Cut back to Smithers making no face. That's the one. They're having so much fun with Burns here. It's so, like him also, you could learn a thing or two from this braying moron. What a great line. And also, stem cells. What a controversy back then. Conservatives, to think of a conservative politician talking about stem cells now would sound insane. Like it's such a non-issue now. It's crazy. You know, the root of them was about abortion, which is very in the news right now. But to think about stem cells, the actual thing like that, I haven't heard about those in a very long time. I feel like it's actually like conservative. I feel like stem cells were involved in some recent medical breakthrough that like saved some asshole's life, and people are like, oh, he got saved by stem cells. But clearly I'm a little stoned here. I can't remember. Also, Smithers is not being his normal supportive self with Burns. Like he's just shutting him down.
Yeah. Usually they like he gets to that point if it's like a Smithers Burns storyline.
Yeah.
But this is like he just takes off with just didn't have much time for him to dally.
He's just shutting him down. But
Things must be bad if Smithers can't get on board with these awful Burns jokes.
Right.
I also love
things are bad.
Just the way Burns goes, and I hold my nose thusly. Like that's so good. But,
thusly.
So Homer comes home. He's got a brand new suit to go with his brand new job.
Mercedes too. It looks like.
And Marge complains
Mercedes
that Homer's
convertible.
ruining all the paper clips in the house, which that feels like
That's
boomer
really
pot stuff. Do people still use that to hold up a roach, the paper clip? Is that still a thing?
Oh, right.
I don't know.
Yes, I think that's like an older, like something from like the 60s. But that line made me laugh as if like a family keeps tabs on their paper clips.
Yes, yeah.
Like you use paper clips so infrequently.
Either that or to clean out his pipe or bowl, if you will.
Ah, I see.
Yes.
Oh, yes. I remember I prefer the joke where when Otto's wedding invitations are on rolling paper and then Marge is like, zigzag. What's this? Yeah. But and this is where Otto comes in here. Homer and Otto are a fun combo. That they're just and then Homer has turned their attic into his like 70s stoned guy pot den. Like you can even see basically a blacklight poster of Led Zeppelin's Icarus back in the background too. Though, boy, doesn't this all feels like Xer pot humor or boomer pot humor of like, because you stay up late watching the Three Stooges when you're high because that's what's the only crap that's on the 3 channels that exist on TV. This should be jokes about staying up all night watching the Donnie Darko DVD if this is like 2002.
Well, I think that's also a slam on Shemp because we all know Shemp is a lesser stooge. He's not as bad as Curly Joe, of course, but nobody thinks Shemp is funny, so you must be high to enjoy the antics of Shemp.
Of course. It is a deeper reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe they're just going with Homer, like he's finally caught up to what he would if he didn't get his crotch chomped by that German Shepherd. He's like just caught up to what he would be doing if he was high
in the 70s instead of the year.
In the 70s.
Though that, again, I had that thing hit me recently, and in the last week's episode of Simpsons, or 2 weeks ago, it was one about Homer and Abe, and he's talking about, oh, growing up you were this, and then that's when it hit me, like when Homer's talking about being a child, he is my age, or actually 1 year younger than me now. Thanks to the sliding timeline, which is like, oh yeah, Homer's not a kid of the 60s anymore.
Right.
He would have been graduating high school when this episode aired.
Yes, yeah. So I also like that in the clip from Three Stooges, Moe really is mad they can't keep a job. He's just like, this is why we've never held down a job. He's mad they keep ruining it. But this is when Marge reminds Homer of healing his eyes, which he's completely forgotten about. And this is when Homer learns about the referendum. This also is where Otto is so stoned he thinks Marge is Homer's mom. And now it's time to get into fish country to ask and ask a few questions to Mike.
Wait, there's a going back to that scene. There's a really funny joke there where Homer's like, "We got to turn over that referendum. It's going to take us a lot of man hours. Marge, make us some burritos." And Otto, not really paying attention, I was like, extra guac on mine. Yes. Which is such a funny, I love the idea of a guy who's not really paying attention, but gets enthused all of a sudden.
Oh, I heard the burritos. Something. Yeah, extra guac on mine. If there's orders going
extra
out.
Extra guac on mine. It kind of reminded me in a weird way. Isn't there a joke when Homer's like, I am done drinking beer. And so he's like, beer here? He's like, I'll take 10.
Yes.
It's just like that quick turnaround of like enthusiasm.
Yeah, it's
maybe not the same type of joke, but I don't know. They
it's
rang the same a little bit.
That's in after he watches Barney's movie.
Yeah, Stars Burns.
Stars Burns.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of fish notes. I have the lead fish is named Trey Anastasio, and I take it that the song they're playing, "Run Like an Antelope," is one of the top tier fish hits.
It definitely is a, if you know fish, you clearly know that song. Mm-hmm. Like that was, let's see, this was 2002 this came out. Mm-hmm. That song is from an album that came out in the mid-90s, I want to say. But yeah, it's very like a crowd-pleasy live song.
So when this came out, Fish was in an interesting place, right, Mike? As I read, they were they were sort of on a hiatus, and they were about to disband within a year or so.
They had just taken like a 2-year break. So this aired, when did this air?
April 2002.
Okay, and I had to look this up to just get they had a little hiatus going starting in 2000, and then it ended in December 2002. So the episode had come out, and then they got back together.
I see, man. Okay.
Yes.
And then they had a disbanding after that, and then they got back together a little bit.
Then in like 2004, they like broke up, for good, quote unquote. And then got back together. I forget when, 2007 maybe, 2006.
That's not so long. That's
No, it's not. 2008?
Okay.
Yeah, 2008, they officially reunited.
Oh, and archived on fish.com is their announcement of being in the show. They announced it to their fans in October 2001. So about 7 months before the episode aired, they let everybody know, hey, we've been recording stuff to be on The Simpsons, guys.
That's funny. I love when bands are on The Simpsons because they need to get I don't know if they need to, but they get a line out of every band member.
Yes, yeah. I was noting that in this. I was like, yep, everybody gets a line.
I don't know if they're all named. I don't think they say each other's names, so you just get a list of fish people at the end. And I'm like, who is who? And they all look so different now, so I wasn't sure who was speaking.
Right. Mike Gordon is the bass player who's like, I think has the line like, "Oh, that was yesterday." He's the bass player, and he has very short hair now.
You know, Trey Anastasio, they did another appearance. They did a fish joke in a episode last season of The Simpsons, and they did get him back for it. And they just used the same character model as this one. They didn't.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's just his look in that. That's great.
And
I love. So Paige McConnell is the piano player, and he's got the line that I love is like, I forget, but he pronounced pothead potheed.
Yes, potheed.
That's such a funny thing to have somebody in fish be like, "What's a potheed?"
the general jokes about them being incredibly sober and not knowing anything about pot culture is it's a great runner with them.
And in the audience, they try to find every character who conceivably could be a pothead, and they even got Laddie's owner from season 8.
The blind man.
Yes, the guy who's like, without it, I could go even blinder.
That's right.
So that was ahead of its time medical marijuana joke.
That's right.
Right.
He's in the audience.
Is that when? Yeah, that's when the cops come in like. And the we're jamming.
Yes.
That part. Yeah. I know. I'm trying to get to that scene where we see the audience. It's like
Disco
Stew, maybe in there.
Yeah.
Snake.
Snake's there, of course.
Snake, nice.
Oh, and the two hippies who owned the Snapple type thing.
Seth and Munchie.
Yeah.
That episode written by Donna Carey.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Oh, there you go. And somebody who's there just for a joke is Hans Moleman.
Yes, who he is informed by fish that he's dying.
This man is very sick.
He's from head to toe. He's reading it up.
Okay, hold on. I smell marijuana smoke. That better be medicinal.
If fish don't see a prescription slip, we are out of here.
We can wait all night, people. Here we go. Head to toe, spread throughout the body. Whoa, this guy is seriously ill.
My doctor never told me that. I had to hear it from fish.
A 1, a 2, you know what to do.
Well, and Mike, have you ever been tempted to write a fish cameo into a script just so you can meet the guys?
You know what? There was a time at Funny or Die when there was a potential maybe to be working with fish somehow, and somebody there knew I liked fish, and they brought me in to like come up with ideas, and we came up with a few ideas, but they were so, I don't even remember any of them, but they were so like half baked just because like it was so tenuous to get them to come in, and that never happened. But no, I never wrote them into anything.
It's not too late. Next time you're pitching a script to somebody,
that's true.
And then they go to a fish concert.
And the characters as well as the writer get to meet the band and hang out with them. And the writer joins them on stage.
Well, whenever we talk to people who have like animated shows, we say we have an idea. What if your characters met podcasters? And they have similar voices to ours.
We think that's a pretty.
They're like, oh yes, we'll have to cast those people. Like, no.
So, Mike, I have two last fish trivia questions for a fish expert. Okay, so one is they mention this on the commentary that Groening and other Simpsons writers went to a fish concert before this, and that in one of their jams they break into a little bit the Simpsons theme, which they do in this episode too. Have you heard that? Is that a regular thing in their jams? They seem to say it was.
I haven't heard it live, and they haven't done it for, as far as I can know, years and years. But I've heard it on tapes and stuff. But yeah, they would kind of go into that and have a big, like, the audience be like, "Doe."
Oh, so
if they time it correctly, or if not, just the band would do that.
So they go, then the audience is supposed to say "doe" back at it.
Yeah,
I see.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and that would be probably like a mid-90s fish thing. But I wonder if did they know that they must have known the Simpsons writers were going to be there that night.
They aren't
because
sure
if it was in 2002, that seems a little late for that sort of fish antic, as far as I can tell.
On the commentary, some question if they knew Matt Groening was in the audience that night or not. But they. And the other fish fact question I have for you, Mike, is that the Fish album, the 1994 one, Hoist, and the cover of it is a horse being lifted up. Apparently, some Fish fans thought that the episode of The Simpsons where there is a diving horse pulled out of the water in that same manner, Fish fans thought it was a reference to that album, and Simpsons writers had to go like, no, we don't know this Fish album.
That episode was a parody of Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken about an actual diving horse.
Right? Yeah. Which.
Oh, interesting. Wait. That horse wasn't in this.
No,
episode.
Not in this episode. That's in Saddlesore Galactica. Yeah.
Gotcha. No, that's interesting. I didn't. That's funny.
Some Fish fans thought it was but
I think they were a little stoned.
I think so.
Well, there's also, Fish is in the Grateful Dead and almost anything these days has such a internet presence that theories like that can get bounced around pretty easily.
But so this is when Fish lets Homer on stage to get out of the vote.
Thank you. And now, a man who's a real potheed. Pothead. Homer Simpson.
Good afternoon. I want to thank you all for coming down here, taking time off from your jobs. Because we need to keep medical marijuana legal. Whether you suffer from glaucoma or you just rented the Matrix, medical marijuana can make things fabulous, medically. So, my mellow fellow citizens, when you go into that voting booth on Tuesday the 7th...
Homer? That was yesterday.
Oh, man, they already voted, and we lost. Oh, man, I can't believe we spaced on the date.
What are we gonna do?
Well, we can't just stand here staring at our hands. Although... Wow.
Oh, that's right. I married that chick.
They call him Fingers, but I never see him fing. Oh, there they go.
Oh, there they go.
That's some deep auto lore.
That was a big joke between me and my friends when this came out. I've never seen him fing.
I love the oh, there they go. I love that.
They're finging.
One final fish fact. That's fact with a PH. Fish is very popular, of course, but I think most Americans know Fish based on their ice cream.
Oh, yes.
The Ben and Jerry's flavor.
Oh, yeah.
It's high level Ben and Jerry's flavor for me. If I'm going to, this is turning into Doughboys here, but the only mark I give against fish food as a Ben and Jerry's flavor is those chocolate fishes in it get real cold and hard, and they can, they're not so fun to chew on. All the rest of it, I've sometimes fished out those fish and have been like, man, I'm not having you.
I had some Ben and Jerry's recently. Just a very simple flavor. It was like peanut butter cup, and it was like all their flavors, delicious. But they were full, kind of those quarter-size peanut butter cups. And they were full in there, so you had to dig out a whole one. You're like, oh my god, I'm just eating a whole candy.
You're just basically mining for them at that point.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, though, I like the shot of Homer framed like he's in Citizen Kane with the photo of him behind him, and and also this is a joke I'm taking from the commentary, but they say it looks like his suit got high, like his suit is such a mess,
it's all rumpled up.
Based on a friend of Al Jean's who was a mess like that, he would show up in a very distressed suit. I think it was not a writer friend, maybe like a Harvard pal. They say his name on the commentary, but he's not like on IMDb or anything.
The way they bring him up, it's just like Mike Reese and Al Jean just talking about a guy they knew in college. Yeah. Also, it's funny, too, we'd be taking him to task for it if he didn't admit it on the commentary, but Al Jean admits that fingers don't fing was a line they wrote on The Critic, and he reused without remembering that they had done it before.
Oh, Franklin said it, right?
Yes, Franklin says it in the episode Uneasy Rider when it's a flashback and parody of The Graduate, where it's, at a party and his dad's giving him wisdom, and he say they call them fingers, but they don't fing. So yes, they admit Al Jean's like, look, you write a lot of jokes, you can't remember them all. I've been doing this for 30 years. Sometimes you repeat yourself. And Otto got married to somebody. We don't know who, and she's gone now.
It was Becky.
Well, no, see, they didn't finish the wedding.
Was that an engagement ring?
Well,
I had an engagement ring.
Okay, he could. Okay, all right, but he didn't finish marrying her. He left her at the altar. But
I feel like it is a Becky. Well, maybe he forgot to take off the ring.
Yeah,
he clearly forgot about the wife, or he forgot he didn't marry her. I feel like it's a Becky ref.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I also love that Homer, to learn the news, he has to get a newspaper out of the machine that's on the stage.
On stage, yeah.
Totally.
This is pre-cell phone.
And so, yes, we come back from the commercial break. The pot is being burned. It's making people too happy, so they pour a bunch of barber hair on it, too.
And the episode is not about pot anymore.
Yes.
Suddenly.
Yeah. Suddenly not. I love Homer's like, I could have smoked that pot and worn that hair. Though this definitely feels like a make good to the censors, where they have to have a scene where Homer promises he won't do drugs anymore. He's like, okay, I won't smoke pot anymore now that it's illegal. Pot's bad, blah, blah, blah. It's bad for my kids to see me smoke it.
Actually, that smoker's a little too inviting. Throw on that sack of barber hair.
Oh, I could have smoked that pot and worn that hair.
Homie, you don't need drugs anymore. Your eyes are all better.
Eyes? What the hell are you talking about?
I want my old dad back, the one who was yelling all the time and... I'm not really sure what I want.
Homer, it's over. I want you to look at your children and promise them you will never do drugs again.
All right, I'll do it for my kids.
As long as you're doing things for me. Would you tie up your bathrobe when you walk around the house?
Never!
I mean, it's so great earlier in the episode the way he warns Bart of like, this is the greatest thing, and you see all these colors, and you must never smoke it or it'll ruin your life, and you'll never experience this. Though, why is Homer insistent on keeping his bathrobe open all the time? But I do like that Lisa, like you said earlier, Bob, that Lisa doesn't know what she wants. She's like, maybe I don't want the mean Homer back. Maybe he should be.
He was maybe too supportive, but he was a lot calmer.
And also, these bongs remind me too. Carolyn Amine clarified the story they say on the commentary, which is they said that when she received the Stoney Award that it was broken. She's clarified that it had a crack in it when they gave it to her at the show, but they then promised they'd give her the good, a real non-broken one later, which she did get, and she says she still has.
It's a ceremonial bong, though. You're not actually using it, correct?
I would think not. Yeah, but I should have asked her if she's ever taken use of that thing. I don't know, but Homer is giving it up. He's telling Otto to leave. That also feels like another great realistic memory of a pothead. To like the joke you remember having while stoned with another friend is just that dropped keys sounded like a ringing phone, and you think that's the funniest thing that's ever happened. Something that just made you like, oh, what? That was a ringing phone. Which if you weren't high, you'd just be like, no, it's not the phone. It was my keys. Okay. And you just move
on from there.
But so yes, Homer throws out Otto. We then go to the bar, and we see that his friends, all his drunk friends, are happy he stopped smoking pot. Which I thought they were going to go more with this of just like, see, back to alcohol, the good thing.
We're learning some dark secrets about Carl. He's a violent alcoholic.
That's pretty. Yes.
Yeah. He was hospitalized.
I feel like that they took that joke from Barney, and they're like, nope, now it's Carl who does it. And again, no sign of Barney again here. He is dead for this episode.
Oh yeah.
I also, a good line, Homer saying, going cold turkey isn't as delicious as it sounds. That's a good line.
Right.
But so, as Homer thinks everything's getting better, he gets a call.
It's been 3 days and my mind is clearer. My sperm count is up and I'm able to recognize simple shapes and patterns.
Dad, you just said that 3 minutes ago.
And regardless, I will no longer be a slave to this.
Why are you keeping that thing?
As a reminder, Marge. Yellow.
Ahoy, ahoy, Executive VP. I'm putting the final touches on my speech to the investors, and I need your generous guffaws.
But I can't find you funny anymore.
I'll either tickle your ribs or feed them to my dogs. Now we're ordering out. What would you like in your pizza pie? Extra cheese? What do you take me for, Lorenzo de Medici? See you soon.
That reminds me of the things jokes you guys throw out on the Doughboys of just like these big what do you take me for? And what a deep reference of Lorenzo de Medici.
That's one of the greatest types of Simpsons jokes that it's a reference I know is funny. I don't know why it's funny, but I know it's over my head, but I know it has significance, so I'm laughing at just the fact that it means something to someone. And I had to look up who Lorenzo de Medici was.
It makes Burns about 500 years old.
Yes.
He doesn't say John D. Rockefeller. He says some guy from the 15th century.
Yes, who was a patron of Renaissance artists like Botticelli and Michelangelo. And
now we all benefit from the patron system, right?
Oh, that's
It's not just for the Renaissance anymore.
All you listeners are Lorenzo de Medici's. Yeah.
So he... Why do you think that was the reference there? Because Medici was like a billionaire, essentially like a billionaire back then.
I wonder if it was just that pizza is Italian, and so he says an Italian name.
Yeah.
Like a rich Italian that also, of course, Burns is cheap, so he sees extra cheese as like an unnecessary expense.
Right.
But yeah, that's my guess.
And maybe they had to find like someone who was richer than Burns because Burns is a billionaire, right?
Though he has pissed away all his money this episode, though. But
that's true. Yeah, maybe it was just a funny thing to say, and they left it at that.
I love. I could hear the Medici, just what a great, the anger of it.
There are lots of old-timey references for Burns coming up.
They're coming hot and heavy in the next scene. Before Homer heads over, Marge tries to comfort him that he can't laugh now that he's not stoned all the time. And then Marge tells him to picture Burns naked, which Marge knows very well because she did a very accurate nude painting of Mr. Burns in season 2, Brush with Greatness. And
right.
She pitches seeing him in a funny hat, which Marge pitched Funny Hat Day to Burns in season 4. Marge gets a job. So, I don't think those are intentional references, but it's funny. She brings up two things she did do to Mr. Burns or with Mr. Burns. So Homer meets up with Smithers. They're both listening to Burns. Neither of them is giving Burns anything. He brings up a thinner negligee than Louise Brooks, which again is one of those if you don't have Google back then, you have to be a very old person to know who Louise Brooks was.
You just have to know who that is.
I think he says the star of Lulu, but I looked it up. She's not the star of Lulu. She plays Lulu in the very racy pre-code film Pandora's Box.
How sad. The negligees must go pretty high in that one.
They're very sheer. Ooh. You want the negligees low, Henry. Low.
Oh, low. Okay. Look, I don't know what negligees are. But, that Lulu thing, I did see that her autobiography she wrote in the 80s was like Lulu in Hollywood. So maybe the writers who knew this got that mixed up and thought her character Lulu was in movies called Lulu. But I love that Flop Sweat could kill Mr. Burns and how he has to shove his one bead of sweat back into his head.
It's fun. It's fun when you see Mr. Burns being incredibly weak. There's one scene that I always liked where he's trying to crush an ant. And the ant is pushing back, and I think it knocks him over.
I love his effort for the paper cup. He's just
the thumbs up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the thumb up the brain. Yes. But so in this case, Burns is going to take a bathiola, which this was a thing back in season 12 or so. They mentioned that they stopped trying to find real old words for Burns to say, and they just added the word eola to my windola, my bathiola. To make a but this is when a tragedy strikes.
One of us has got to start laughing. If Mr. Burns gets flop sweat, he'll die of dehydration.
Oh, I'm drenched with sweat.
It's drenched.
I'm going to take a bathiola. When I come back, you'd better be laughing.
This stuff can make anything funny, even that show that follows Friends. But I promised my family I wouldn't smoke it anymore.
Well, I've got to do something.
Start inhaling, Waylon.
This suit used to belong to Judy Garland. We could sing a song if you don't mind being Mickey Rooney.
Mean that guy on 60 Minutes who yells all the time?
60 Minutes? Oh my God, Mr. Burns has been in the tub for an hour! Ah! Oh, Mr. Burns. You were too beautiful for this world.
Oh, man, we killed Mr. Burns. Mr. Burns is going to be so mad.
The investors' meeting is in 20 minutes.
So what? Mr. Burns is dead.
We can carry on. Michael Eisner's been dead for 5 years. Ted Turner's just a hologram. Now, we gotta think.
Okay, so I have some trivia for you folks out there. They say this can make anything funny, even the show that follows Friends. I looked into this. The show that followed Friends was the very short-lived show Leap of Faith. It aired its 6th and final episode the week before Weekend at Burnsie's aired. Now you might be thinking, huge failure, right? No, Leap of Faith got 16.5 million viewers per episode average. But a Friends rerun got 18 million viewers average. So instead of making a new show, they just followed Friends with a Friends rerun.
Just more Friends.
Whoa!
And got
just
more
to the end of the season.
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I saw that joke too as not so much a joke on whatever show was airing after Friends but just that like you kind of what you're saying. NBC was just throwing shows together and putting them after Friends and before Seinfeld, and then just like. Yeah, there's going to be any type of show.
Yeah, I mean, because of that, suddenly, Susan, more people saw that than ever saw Game of Thrones.
Yes, yeah.
And Veronica's Closet and all of those
Caroline
shows.
in the City.
Yeah,
Cool.
They all got like 19 million viewers per episode just because the inertia of Friends pushed you into...
TV was left on, yeah.
You're not going to change the channel to a different show because you'll miss Seinfeld at 9. So, yeah.
Right.
But it's a great...
The hammock slot.
It's a great blanket statement joke, too, because they could just assume, like, probably whatever's on Friends when we write this will be gone by the time and replaced with another show.
And they were right.
And
that's the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, I don't think they had it out for Leap of Faith, but it was one of the many interchangeable shows that would still, like, any show would kill to get that. I don't even know if that Kevin Costner show gets 16.5 million.
Yellowstone?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Yellowstone,
no,
right.
And Henry, do you have the...
I know, I just learned how popular that show is. I had no idea.
It is huge.
Yeah, I was just hearing about Sylvester Stallone is starring in one of the, like, it's just movie stars are coming to TV to be in the Taylor Sheridan film or TV franchises. Yeah.
Yes, so Yellowstone Season 5 premiere breaks rating records with 12 million viewers. Leap of Faith got 4 million more viewers per episode than the biggest show on TV right now.
It got killed 6 episodes in.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Henry, do you have the Dragnet info about this?
Oh, yeah. Well, you pointed me towards it, but yes, I watched the episode as well. This is a very dense Dragnet reference here.
The thing is, you only need to watch the last 30 seconds of that Dragnet episode because that's what they're parodying. And the entire thing is this couple, there's suspicions that they're pot users, right? And, Joe Friday and his pal are investigating them. And then at the end of the episode, their toddler is dead in the bathtub because they were too busy getting stoned.
Yep.
And,
shit.
Yeah, the episode is called The Big High, and it's just all on YouTube. You can just watch the whole thing if you want. And for writers like the Simpsons writers who grew up with Dragnet, it aired around the same time as this version of Dragnet. This episode aired in 1967. It aired around the same time as the Batman Adam West show, and both have this same level of camp. But the fun of Dragnet, especially to Boomer and XR TV nerds, was it was so deadly serious. Like that episode is about a huge guilt trip to say no to pot, but they are so wrong about pot and so like stupid with it that it comes back around again to be campy and dumb. And we all laugh at it.
We didn't know when Nick at Night was showing Dragnet that adults were watching it ironically.
Yes, no, yeah. Right. So yeah, the episode itself, it's the price paid by there's a couple who has like a baby, and they are very cavalier of like, maybe we do smoke grass, man. What you gonna do about it, Drebin? They don't care. Like there's flouting the laws.
Is Drebin the naked gun guy?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, not Drebin. Well, anyway, but Jack Webb.
Friday.
It was Friday, yeah. So Jack Webb keeps telling them like, you guys, you're gonna be in trouble. So then the episode ends with them going to their house, and they're like, hey, where's the baby? And in a very serious scene, they take a dead body of a child out of the bathtub and they sob over it. That's what's happening here with Smithers. It's pretty almost shot for shot of Smithers pulling the body out of the thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And the baby scoots across, like shoots out of his
Well, that doesn't
embrace
happen.
and flies across.
No.
I see.
That should have happened. And
Could have happened.
I saw this live, and they were a fan of just killing Mr. Burns in this era.
He dies a lot.
Earlier in this season, I think, when he had his girlfriend, during a montage of him being romantic, he does die.
That's right.
And comes back. And
Right.
I was a little annoyed by the Weekend at Bernie stuff because it's at that point the movie was 13 years old, and they're also like kind of playing with a corpse of a character I enjoy.
Yes.
But now I appreciate the audacity of this choice.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, yep, Mr. Burns is dead. From now on, this is your last time seeing Mr. Burns. He's dead.
And there's blood leaking from his head.
I also like, on the commentary, they seem to think it goes too far as, like, a gay joke. But me, as a gay person, speaking for all gay men, obviously, I represent all of them. But I like... gay dudes like Smithers and stuff don't get to be stoned that much. They don't get to be high, and gay guys can be just as high as straight guys. And I love that when Smithers gets high, he dresses up like Judy Garland. I like that.
I like that detail. I like that his version of getting high isn't tie-dye and just like a stoner guy thing. Like he wears whatever the costume that he's got on hand, which I like.
He's finally relaxed enough to do his routine of Judy Garland, like late in life Judy Garland too, which is why as a Garland fan, Maddie says he's going to do a duet with Homer as Mickey Rooney, because obviously Judy Garland only did that in early years in her career, in her childhood years. By the time she was wearing an outfit like Smithers is wearing, she was really doing duets with like Perry Como and Bobby Darin.
I think on the commentary, not to go too deep into this, they said the original joke was him wearing a gown or a dress.
Oh, okay.
And they thought that was too far and maybe a bit insulting. So
yeah, I can see that.
Maybe the joke.
Well, also, if this is later Judy Garland, like that's her costume in later years, that's when she was a drug addict, right?
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like I was saying, with it, not the his version of a drug addict is Judy Garland, whereas Homer's is like the fish or whatever.
Well, sorry, I had one last thing to say about that Dragnet episode too, is that it's just funny. Bob has mentioned this other times when we bring up Dragnet. The creator and star of the show, Jack Webb, a huge drunk. And I like to imagine him doing this episode about making pothead heads feel like you're so irresponsible, you let a baby drown. And then he's probably driving home drunk like every night from work, like with no seatbelt on.
Sure.
But okay, so yes, they've killed Mr. Burns. We have a joke about Ted Turner and Michael Eisner being holograms and not alive, which both are still with us right now even. So this joke that they're dead. But then we get another thing that I was like, oh, wow, this was just in the news. Bill Clinton giving a speech for a bunch of money because he was just in the news about crypto with that.
Yes, he was just at the earlier in 2022. He was at the Crypto Bahamas conference with Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yes.
Or Fried. And he shows up just to give legitimacy to fraudulent activities, basically.
Yeah, him and Tony Blair are both there. It's funny. This was the one that just like imploded, and they're like, no, billions are just gone now. It's just gone. But months beforehand, Bill Clinton was there, just like he is here, giving a speech for a bunch of money. Though I like how Bill Clinton shows off his Fox attitude with his hip shakes. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, but now we come to the Weekend at Bernie stuff, and this is another reason I wanted to have Mike on here. Mike, you are the star of one of the best, I'd say the best comedy parody of Weekend at Bernie's I have ever seen. The Weekend at Ernie's sketch in the birthday.
Yes. What a nice title that is, Weekend at Ernie's. We did one letter difference.
I was slamming this for being a dated parody, but you guys reinvented the Weekend at Bernie's parody, so I will give you credit. We just watched the sketch before we sat down to record, and we were laughing a lot.
Yes, yeah.
I should have watched it before we sat down. Thank you. I'm glad you guys like that. That was a fun sketch. That came out of the live show. We did that live, and it's always so fun to do because it's such a fun stage picture. If those who haven't seen it, it's basically Jeff and I set up a Weekend at Bernie's style thing, and then where we have to get our uncle to sign. This lawyer is coming in. We have to get our uncle, who's dead, to sign something to make sure his beach house doesn't get taken away. But then Jeff dies, so I have to puppet Jeff, who then puppets the dead Ernie. So at one point, we're all doing a conga line, and I'm puppeting all of them. It's all very funny. And by the end, to ruin the sketch for you, even the lawyer, he dies, and then I have to puppet the whole scene.
You acted it all out. It's so I think I saw it on stage at one of your Sketchfest shows, and
nice.
It was great. Yeah.
I noticed Mitch really takes it easy in that sketch, though. From the beginning, he's a corpse.
He's the corpse.
Well, is that easy? Well, you're the only guy in the sketch who doesn't die, but for your coworkers, was it hard for them to keep the dead face on the whole time when you're moving them around?
A little bit. It kind of probably for the first couple times we rehearsed it was difficult, but then Jeff and I have kind of a lot of choreographed stuff going on, so he kind of has to I think I put sunglasses on if you're dead in the scene, you have sunglasses on. So I put sunglasses on him so he can probably open his eyes and see what's going on. Right. But I don't think he did. I think he actually played it with his eyes closed. But we would, there were some parts where he kind of moves his arm as if he's dead as I just touch it, because for me to actually do the stuff to these guys, it would be impossible. I couldn't pick them up and do it.
It'd be exhausting. Yeah, you'd be.
Yes.
But yeah, I love that skit. Everybody, it's in the last episode of season 2 of The Birthday Boys. If you guys want to watch it, which is it's on Plex. It's on Pluto. Yeah.
It's on my DVDs. Come over.
DVD.
Yeah, come over to Bob's house. Enjoy some legal marijuana and watch Birthday Boys together.
These guys are all so high.
Yeah. How stoned were you when you wrote that one, Mike?
I was. Oh my God! I was just getting into daily LSD dosing.
So yes, it becomes a full-on Weekend at Bernie's, except they're not hugging him and standing next to him the whole time. They just turn him into a marionette, and
instead of having the dead Bernie face, they have fish hooks.
Yes, lifting his face,
lifting his mouth.
I love I love the way the fish hooks, especially the one they basically taped a fish hook to his bald front of his head just to move it around. But yes, Homer helps Burns with the presentation.
And now a man you will see is definitely not dead, Mr. Montgomery Burns. Mr. Burns, as we're running along, may we skip your speech and go directly to the questions?
Mr. Burns, a two-part question. 1, when will you see a prophet again? And 2, what's that red stuff coming out of your ear?
Mr. Burns, may I field that one? It's true we're losing money, but there's no reason we can't dance the night away!
And then Burns does a very long dance routine that involves him,
which jostles his heart every which way,
and it crashes him to the ground too. With seemingly his legs are backwards, his spine has been fully broken. But
I do. I mean, I think this is very funny now. It annoyed me when I was watching this 21 years ago, but I love when the curtains close on Burns and Homer has to kick his head back under the curtain.
Yes, his dead-eyed face as he just shoves it back out. Now, what's that red stuff coming out of your ears, as Dr. Nick says? John Vitti is credited in another episode with that same line in season 7's premiere, Home Sweet Home Diddly Dum Doodly, the season 7 production, just to be clear. Todd asked that after watching the Itchy and Scratchy, what's the red stuff coming out of Kitty's ears? That's just raspberry jam. That sure is Ned. But yeah, I feel like at this point, and definitely now, Elvis has left the building jokes that's dead. Nobody does those jokes anymore.
I see. I didn't even read it as that, but you're totally right.
Yeah.
I assume no one would ever do this.
I just went to an Elton John, one of his final concerts, his last one in San Francisco.
Yes.
Did you go to the LA one or a New York one?
No.
I've
never seen it, but I kind of was just realizing that they were his, or hearing that they were his last ones. Those would be fun ones to do.
Well, he's got still, I'd say, hundreds more he's doing internationally. It's just his last ones in America. So if you want to fly to Europe to see,
I don't think we've seen the last of Reginald Dwight.
But
everyone,
but they didn't need to tell us he left the building. From where we were sitting, the way his show ends, it's really crazy, because he finishes Yellow Brick Road. And then he gets on basically a little elevator that takes him up, and he just is waving to everybody well, I'm going to heaven now, pretty much. And then once he goes behind the curtain after going up the elevator, then on the big screen is a video of just him in heaven pretty much. I was like, well, this is simulating his death. But then from where we were sitting, we could see behind the stage, and there's like this luxury SUV waiting for him, and he instantly
got right in it?
Like the car drives away before the video's over.
There will be no encore.
Perfect. That is the best. I've heard the same thing with Billy Joel when he does his MSG shows. This is somebody who I know works there, was saying like, he's done, he's in a limousine, and he's gone.
He's out of there. You got your 2 hours. You heard it. You're not getting any extra.
Oh, God, imagine being so long into your career of performing in front of huge audiences that even like when you're done, there's not a moment. Because I imagine when you're done with a show, or when I'm done with a show, you're backstage a little bit just like, wow, that was really fun. Or you're just talking to people. You're just so over it that you're in a car gone.
Like that car is waiting for me right now. That car better be like on, and that elevator.
Oh, and if it's not, somebody's never going to work again.
but it was a great show. They used the you can see the video. It's on Disney Plus. The last LA concert.
Oh yes, cool.
Which I heard our mutual pal Mike Carlson went to. He had a good
Carlson.
time. Yeah, he had a good time.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, so after all of this, we get a mollified ending here.
Mr. Burns has left the building.
We are mollified.
Brilliant. We lost $60 million and they're cheering for more.
Mr. Burns, you're alive.
Yes, I regained consciousness during my big dance number. Those strings pulling me every which way jostled my heart from its slumber.
And you wanted to take him to the hospital.
Oh, and you didn't? Well, the worm has finally shown its fangs. Smithers, make me slap him. You call that a slap? Make me slap you. Now both. Now just you. Now give me a taste. Now both again. Now all three. Excellent.
That's what he was finally going after. All three. Excellent.
A callback to the Three Stooges.
Yes, yeah, actually.
yeah, right.
That's a very silly ending. After all of this pot stuff, all of the political implications of pot, and on top of Homer having a collection of crow friends, that they just ends with like 20 seconds of just slapping, of just like a bunch of slapping with no soundtrack behind it. But
yeah, I feel like these later Simpsons, they need to just kind of wrap up episodes pretty quickly.
Yes, yeah.
Like they have these big, huge moments. The billionaire of town is dancing. He's dead, and he comes back to life, and then this episode's over.
It's just like we got to get out of here, guys.
They kind of explain what happened, and then they slam the door on you.
Just a silly thing of like, my heart started again while you made me dance. There, I'm not dead. even though blood was leaking out of my ears, and I clearly was drowned.
Sure.
And, he was just a corpse. But
and he's back alive, and he's also able to be kind of funny by making people slap each other.
Mr. Burns is unkillable. It's true. And then my last thought on the episode in order is just, I feel like they have the fish bit of them playing a little bit of the theme in the episode. Lots of guest musicians, they will do a version of the theme for the ending, but this doesn't have it. And I wonder if this was because of the hiatus timing, maybe they just weren't playing anything together at the time. And they
maybe. That's interesting because this would have been like probably doesn't it take like a year before they write it, and then it takes a year to like edit or
the timeline, as best I can guess, is based on the fish.com news story on it. So they teased it in October of 2001, and in the article they said that the guys had been recording it over the last couple months, which implies to me that they were not all together recording it, and it was just somewhere in town, and they recorded it and things. But it definitely was like 8 months ahead of time. But
it's either that or they bought too many licensed songs and couldn't afford another one.
They couldn't pay Fish to do it. I could see that too. Yeah, but that's what's just missing here. I wish Fish got to have an outro to the Simpsons episode, but.
Right, because they do sort of just show up. Yeah, they show up very briefly, just as sort of like a, hey, we got these guys. Okay, they have nothing really to do with the plot. They're just here.
Then they get out of town. Yeah, I do wonder if there was, some question in the room of like, how famous is Fish? Like, because they had, U2 on, or all these very big bands,
all the Living Beatles,
every Living Beatle. Yeah. So I wonder.
Oh, that's a good point. I'm sure in 2002, especially on a hiatus, I'm sure like nobody knew who they were.
But
the fans would. But.
Yeah, hey, it was pleasing for all the fans who visited fish.com and learned about it. But
I guess my final thoughts are the weed stuff is a fun time capsule with a few okay jokes, but I'm really here for Act 3. The Burns story is great, and I have come to terms with the corpse play, and I think it's very funny now.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. You've grown.
I thought as a youth, as a teen, a late teen when this came out, I did think the Burns stuff was a little like corny, like everybody does a Weekend at Bernie's thing back then. But I grew to, now I really like it. And now that I know the Dragnet reference, I kind of like it more too. And yeah, the pot stuff really does like just lock it in time for, compared to now, it's just like, wow, 20 years, a whole lot has changed with it. And also, Homer with his crows, it's cute. And now that I know it comes from real Fox Studio crows that Carolyn Omine has been feeding, so I just one more thanks to Carolyn Omine for the executive producer who gave us tons of extra stories.
I like her even more now that she likes crows.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on this one, Mike?
My final thought is Simpsons is a fantastic show, and it's fun to see some fun. They're having fun. No, I don't know. I enjoyed it. It did make me want to watch through this season again, because as I was searching for it, I was like, oh, I kind of remember that. I don't remember like this episode. Like, I remember where it starts, and I don't remember where it goes. So I'm gonna kind of put that as my eating lunch show for a little while.
Season 13 still has some good episodes, and they're not as memorized as a season 5 or 6 one.
We'll surprise you.
Yes. Right.
But thanks for joining us, Mike. Please let us know where to find you online and more about the Sloppy Boys and anything else you might want to promote.
You find me at Mike Hanford on Twitter and Instagram, and I have a TikTok. I forget what that's called, and I don't post much on it. But we got the Sloppy Boys as well. That's our podcast that comes out every week. We have a Patreon where you can get extra episodes per week, and we're going to be going on. This comes out when? December 14th?
Yeah.
We will be on tour next spring. We're doing a 2-week Midwest tour.
Awesome.
And that is not, we're not doing podcast tour. We're doing the band.
Right. I have to say I'm so sad when you guys did your California tour, because me and Bob missed you perfectly. Like you guys, I flew down to LA like right as you guys were finishing in Long Beach. And then when you came up to Oakland, I wasn't in Oakland. And then when you went to Vancouver, Bob and his wife were not in Vancouver when they normally are.
I'm starting to take it personally.
We missed you guys entirely, but
that's next. We'll get you next time. Actually, you know what? We're playing in LA at some point in January.
Ooh, okay.
January 26th.
That's awesome.
But that Oakland show too was not one to miss. That was a barn burner.
Oh man, you're just rubbing it in now.
I know.
No, the Sloppy Boys are they are a fun time, and the podcast is great. I also really love the bonus stuff. I always look forward to the monthly. I guess another one's coming pretty soon of a new Questions for Lennon at the time of this recording. Obviously, the December one's out when you're listening to this. But
yes. But every month we do a new Questions for Lennon. This month is Claire O'Kane was the guest.
Awesome! I can't wait to hear it. Yeah. But thank you so much, Mike. This is always a ton of fun.
Yes,
thanks a lot, Mike.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad we got the schedule to work, and we did it up.
Thanks again to Mike Hanford for being on the show. Please check out the Sloppy Boys, either the podcast or, hey, check out their tour coming up in the Midwest. But as for us, if you want to check out more of what we do, we get these episodes 1 week ahead of time and ad-free. Please go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. For $5 a month, you can get just that, but also access to our vast catalog of miniseries episodes. We've done miniseries about shows like Futurama, King of the Hill, The Critic, Mission Hill, and Batman the Animated Series. And if you sign up for $5 a month, you can get all of that we've done so far, plus regular monthly episodes of both Talking Futurama and Talking of the Hill. And also currently unraveling right now is Blabbin' About Batman, the Animated Series Season 2. Sign up now. You can hear all of the Season 2 we recorded so far and the rest of Season 2 as it unravels through the end of 2022. And it's all happening behind that that $5 paywall, only at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. And there is a $10 level as well. When you sign up for that, you can access all of the $5 stuff naturally, but you can also access one extremely long podcast once a month, only for patrons of that level or higher. And what is that, Henry?
Bob is talking about the What a Cartoon movie podcast, our special premium bonus for $10 and up subscribers who get to hear us go super in-depth into an animated feature film, just like we do with The Simpsons. That often means talking for over 5 hours about tons of different films. We've been doing it for 4 years now. The most recent one we did at the end of November was part of our Halloween hangover, covering the Leica film Paranorman. We had such a great time talking about that. Seasonally appropriate, we're finishing out the year of the holiday season with Tokyo Godfathers, the Satoshi Kon classic that is set during the holidays in Japan about several unhoused people. It is a good time. We are going to have a lot of fun talking about it. And if you sign up, you get access to all the previous ones covering things like so many of the Disney Renaissance films, a bunch of different anime films, everything from Akira to A Goofy Movie, as we love to say, even stuff recent like Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. So please check it all out for yourself at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons.
And as for me, I've been one of your hosts, Bob Mackey. You can find me on Twitter as Bob Servo, and my other podcast is Retronauts. That's a classic gaming podcast all about old video games. You can find that wherever you find podcasts, or go to patreon.com/Retronauts. Sign up there for 2 full-length bonus episodes every month. And Henry, how about you?
You can follow me on Twitter at HENEREYG. That's also my thing on Hive if you're using that too. And as we're talking about social media accounts, at Talk Simpsons Pod is where you'll keep up to date with all the cool stuff we're doing. You can follow that on Twitter. You'll know when new stuff hits the Patreon or the free feeds, or if we're doing live shows. And the same goes for our brand new Instagram, at Talk Simpsons Pod as well on Instagram. Follow them both to stay up to date and see a bunch of cool stuff. And if you want to find an easy to follow list of all our previously released free episodes of podcasts, head on over to TalkingSimpsonsPodcast.com.
Thanks so much for joining us, folks. We'll see you again next time for Season 3's Bart the Lover, and we'll see you then.
Yeah, I did it! Marge is in the house. I will be soon, because it needs some cleaning.